Jessica Donaldson.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
So I mean, they kind of make it seem like we volunteered for this. I think of it as voluntold.
Told.
That could have happened.
That could happen.
So anyway, as Bryce talked about last week, same for me. I'm not really somebody who gets up in front of people and speaks a lot. So bear with me. But I have, I'll probably cry also, just forewarning you. I'm going to speak, thank you, tonight on joy. And it's kind of one of those subjects that seems really easy when you talk about it. And then when you walk it out, it's not that easy. So, anyway, I'm going to start. So, as most of you know, especially everyone that was here last week, Bryce was in a motorcycle accident 6 years ago. And I wouldn't really count that as a joyful time. But even in the midst of chaos, in the midst of crisis, in the midst of hurt, there is joy. And you can find that joy when you look for it. And so I think about that time is when I really started looking for it. And because there are a lot of hard days. We all have hard days, but there was a lot of hard days, and he couldn't take care of himself. We had 3 small kids. Youngest was about 9 months old, and then 2 and 3, 3 and 4, I don't know, it all blurs together. And they all needed me. And so there was not a lot of time for me. And that's a hard place too. And so anyway, had this book, 1,000 Gifts. It's by Ann Voskamp. And I've read it here and there, and I've reread it, and I've listened to it on an audiobook, and it's really good. And she has been through a lot of tragedy in her life also, and she talks about joy. And so I'm going to start with verse Luke 22:19. It says, "And he took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, 'This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.'" And he gave thanks. In the original language is the word Eucharisteo. And the root word of that is charis, which means grace. But also, so he took the bread, he saw it as grace, and he gave thanks. He knew it to be a gift. So Eucharisteo, or thanksgiving, holds the word charis, but it also has the derivative of that. The Greek word is chara, which means joy. And so in the midst of Thanksgiving is where you will find that joy. And so a lot of what is talked about in the book is 1,000 gifts. She basically writes a list of 1,000 things throughout the day that are gifts that she's thankful for, that, it can be the sunset, anything. But she sees it as a gift, gives thanks for it, and it produces joy in her. And so in one quote from the book, it says, "But where can I seize this holy grail of joy? Was this the clue to the quest of all most important? Deep chara joy is found only at the table of the Eucharisteo, the table of thanksgiving. Is the height of my chara joy dependent on the depth of my Eucharisteo thanks? As long as thanks is possible, then joy is always possible. Grace, thanksgiving, joy, Eucharisteo. And so, as you can see, they're all kind of intertwined. Being thankful for all these things, seeing the grace in it, and it's producing joy. And then also, right before Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead in John 11:41, this is what it says in the Passion Translation. So they rolled away the heavy stone. Jesus gazed into heaven and said, Father, thank you that you have heard my prayer. He gave thanks, and then the miracle happened. And so just throughout, there's so many different scriptures where Jesus gave thanks when he feeds the multitudes and there wasn't enough. He gave thanks before doing that, and there was plenty, overflowing. And he took it from not enough to more than enough. And so just in my, which I think I've shared this here before, kind of like my theme verse for a long time has been James 1:2. Count it all joy is like this simple paraphrase version, but this is it in the Passion Translation. It says, my fellow believers, when it seems as though you are facing nothing but difficulties, see it as an invaluable opportunity to experience the greatest joy that you can. And then it goes on, for you know that when your faith is tested, it stirs up power within you to endure all things. And then as your endurance grows even stronger, it will release perfection into every part of your being until there is nothing missing and nothing lacking. And another one of my favorite little sayings is, find joy in the journey. And just there's, like I said, with Bryce's accident, he didn't die. That was something to be joyful about. I mean, he could have easily died, and I could look at him and say, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. But when you choose those, then you're in ungratefulness, and nothing good comes from that. So it's like, I choose to see he didn't die. I choose to see he never lost consciousness. I choose to see that he walks. You know, all these different things that, you know, you could get really angry, which, don't get me wrong, I did get angry. And I think it's okay to be angry, as long as you're not sinning in that anger.
Amen.
And because it's not fair. I think we've all had those it's not fair moments. And so just like I started out in the beginning, it's one of those things where it's so much easier to talk about how, oh, yay, you know, especially when life is good and things are going great, it's really easy to find those joyful things. But it's in the midst of the tragedies, in the midst of the chaos. Will you choose to find joy? Will you look at your circumstances? Will you find something that you can say, you know what? That's grace. That's a blessing. I'm going to count that as a gift, and I'm going to choose joy.
Amen.
And my son, he's 10. So he kind of is in that, you know, attitude phase. And we were somewhere where he didn't particularly want to be. And it wasn't like it was a bad place. He just didn't really know anyone, so he's kind of uncomfortable. And I told him, I said, listen, I understand if you don't really want to be here, that's fine. Like, that's fine if you feel that way. However, you're going to change your attitude because you're not going to sit there with a scowl on your face, because you can choose to have fun even in the midst of somewhere you don't want to be. There's people around you that you know. You can go play a game with someone else. You're responsible for your emotions and the way you react.
Yeah.
And you know what? Yeah, about 10 minutes later, he was off running, playing hide and seek, playing tag, having a great time. But it's like we have so much power over what we focus on.
Amen.
And what it is that we choose to put our mind to. And when we choose to put our mind to those things that bring joy, it's amazing how the outlook on everything else changes.
That's right.
plus, not only that, then you influence all the other people around you.
Right.
And they start to wonder, well, like, why does she have so much joy? I mean, her life doesn't look all that great, but you know what? That's the best kind of testimony. Even in the, like I said, even in the midst of chaos, there is joy, and there are things to be grateful for, and there's things to count as grace. And even like my siblings, that's a testing one for me also. I'm very different from my siblings. My brother went to prison, and it's like, that wasn't easy. And it's like, I know who my brother is, I know who God made him to be, but I also know the choices that he's made, and they haven't been good ones. And he consequently went to prison, and that was hard, but you know what? He got to, because he's really smart and because he's really intelligent, while he was in there, he wasn't using drugs. That was a blessing. That was something to be joyful about. And also, he got like the most, I would say, relaxed prison duty there was. He got to be on the fire line and be out there on where they come in and help take out fires, because he is smart and he tested really high, so we got to choose pretty much where we wanted to be. And you know, that was God's grace.
Yes, that's right.
That he got to be there, and we got to go visit him. And then you know what, they said only like 2 people could come. All my kids, Bryce, my sister, and my parents, all 8 of us got to go. That was God's grace.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, it was right before Christmas. We got to bring a meal. We got to have time together as a family. And we got to play. So it's like, like I said, even in the midst of those situations where it seems hopeless, there's joy. There's joy moments in there. And yeah, like I said, my siblings, my sister's also very different from me and my brother also. And she just thinks very differently than I do, and than a lot of people. And so sometimes it's really hard to talk to her. And unfortunately, it's hard for a lot of people to talk to her. And so I try to just listen and give her a chance to say what it is that she has to say. I don't always agree with her, but you know what? She doesn't always need to know that. You know, sometimes I don't agree with her and I let her know that. But there's times when I don't agree with her and she doesn't need to know that, because it doesn't produce anything by me saying, you're wrong. But by me holding my tongue and allowing her to speak, she is seen. She feels valued. And it brings joy. It brings joy to her, it brings joy to me, it brings joy to others around her, because then, like I said, when you're joyful, or when you implant joy in others, it's infectious.
That's right. That's right.
And so, that was, I think, mainly, there's other, like I said, this book is really great. If you want to read it, I highly recommend it. She has a lot of really good stories, and just a lot about like perspective and how you can just change, but a lot about like how we see situations certain ways, but we don't see the bigger picture.
Right.
And God is always good.
Amen.
No matter what. We don't know what else is going on because we can't see from way up there, and we would probably be really overwhelmed if we did. And we just have to trust and believe that He is good and that all that He does is good. And so, yes, I think I will end it there.